Imagine a farmer named John in rural England, 1750. For generations, his family worked the land using methods unchanged for centuries. Ploughing with horses, sowing seeds by hand, harvesting with scythes. The rhythm of farming life was predictable, almost comforting in its familiarity. Then one spring day, John watches as his wealthy neighbour unveils a strange contraption, Jethro's Tull seed drill. Instead of scattering precious seeds by hand, this machine plants them in neat, orderly rows. This will change everything, his neighbour boasts. I can plant twice the acreage with half the seed. John feels knots forming in his stomach. But what about the way we've always done things? What about the seasonal workers who help with planting? What about me? Little did John know he was standing at the beginning of the agricultural revolution, a transformation that would completely reshape society, eliminate countless traditional farming jobs, create entirely new ones, and ultimately enable the modern world. Sound familiar? Because today we're all John, standing at the precipice of the AI revolution, asking the same fundamental question. If this new technology can do the work I've trained my whole life to do, what happens next? Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the final video in our three-part exploration into AI and its role in genomics, bioinformatics, and scientific research at large. In our last two videos, we explored how AI is currently being used in genomics and research, and then took a speculative journey into what the field might look like 20 years from now. Today, we're tackling a more personal angle on the topic. If robots and AI can do both the lab and the computer work, what do we do? It's a fair question, right? I mean, we've spent years, sometimes decades, developing specialized skills, and now we're watching as AI systems master those same skills with remarkable speed and scalability. So let's dive into some practical advice for navigating this changing landscape. And I think the best place to start is by looking at what history can teach us. History doesn't exactly repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And when we look at previous technological revolutions, we can spot patterns that might help us prepare for what's coming. So let's go back to our friend John in the 1700s. The agricultural revolution completely transformed farming through a series of innovations that might seem simple to us now, but were absolutely mind-blowing at the time. New farming inventions arrived in quick succession. The seed drill that planted seeds in neat rows instead of scattering them, iron ploughs that cut deeper into the soil, and early mechanical threshers that separated grain from stalks in hours instead of days. At the same time, the enclosure movement was gaining momentum, with wealthy landowners fencing off common lands that ordinary people had relied on for generations. The results? Food production nearly tripled over the next century. Britain could feed more people with fewer farmers. This directly fueled the Industrial Revolution by creating food surpluses and freeing up workers for factories. But what about the people? Those who owned land or had money to invest in new equipment prospered tremendously, but millions of farm workers faced a brutal choice. Adapt to the new system as wage labourers with fewer rights than before, or leave for growing industrial cities to find factory work. By the 1870s, entire rural communities had been transformed. Many former agriculture workers ended up in crowded urban areas, working in factories under difficult conditions. Others who stayed in farming became specialised workers with a new agricultural system they no longer controlled. The key pattern? A revolutionary technology increased productivity dramatically while completely restructuring who did the work, how they did it, and who benefited most from the results. Let's fast forward to the early 1990s. Back then, information lived on paper. If you wanted to find data, you'd dig through books at a library or hunt through filing cabinets at work. Communication meant phone calls, handwritten letters, or face-to-face meetings. Then, the internet arrived. At first, it didn't feel like a revolution. Sure, emails replaced letters, websites replaced brochures, and digital files started replacing paper. But most people still had the same jobs. It felt more like getting new tools than a total upheaval. But under the surface, everything was changing. As broadband speed and personal computers became affordable, information suddenly became instant, searchable, and global. Entire industries began quietly rewiring themselves around this new digital infrastructure. By the early 2000s, the impacts became clear. Workers comfortable with digital technology earned 10 to 15% more than those who weren't. They had access to more career opportunities and flexibility. Meanwhile, middle skill jobs that involved routine information processing started disappearing or paying less as those tasks became automated. New roles emerged rapidly. Web developers, digital marketers, data analysts, and e-commerce specialists, careers that hadn't existed before. Geography became less important than digital skills, allowing someone in a small town to work for companies anywhere in the world. But not everyone benefited. Those without access to technology or the skills to use it effectively found themselves increasingly left behind as traditional jobs transformed or disappeared. The digital divide between those who could adapt and those who couldn't created a new kind of inequality. By the 2010s, massive technology platforms, so Google, Amazon, and Facebook, had emerged as the new infrastructure of society. society, transforming how we search for information, connect with others, and purchase goods. Every industry, from retail to healthcare to entertainment, had been fundamentally reshaped by digital technology. So what can both of these revolutions tell us about AI? Well, both of these revolutions share striking patterns. They dramatically increased what humans could produce. They created clear winners, so those who owned or mastered the new technology, and losers, those whose skills became less valuable. They transformed where and how work happened, and they rewarded those who adapted to the new reality and punished those who couldn't or wouldn't change. The AI revolution we're experiencing now shows the same patterns, but potentially at an even faster pace. Just as mechanical inventions multiplied what human muscles could accomplish, and digital tools automated information management and distribution, today's AI is automating higher level tasks. So what does that mean for you right now? What should you be focusing on? Let's look at the types of tasks most likely to be replaced by AI and what new roles might emerge. So let's start with what's already shifting. One of the biggest is writing. Large language models are brilliant at processing and generating text. They can draft emails, reports, documentation, even creative content, and they're getting pretty damn good at it. Are they perfect? No. Do they still need oversight? Absolutely. But the disruption is already here. The same thing's happening with code. AI tools are writing, refactoring, debugging, and accelerating workflows in a way that's hard to ignore. But just like in previous technological revolutions, this doesn't mean those skills are obsolete. It means the tasks are changing, not the value. Let's zoom out for a moment. Imagine it's 1990. You're an accountant, same age as you are now. You've spent years honing your arithmetic, your mental math, your ability to manually work through ledgers and reports. Or maybe you're a student, 3 years deep into an accounting degree, grinding through textbook problems, training your brain to be a calculator. Then almost overnight, spreadsheet software takes off. Now someone with way less experience than you is matching or even outperforming you just because they use this new software. And you start to panic. I've worked so hard to master this skill of mental arithmetic, and now software is making it irrelevant. What's the point? Is accounting even a viable career anymore? But let's fast forward 35 years. Accountants still exist. In fact, there are more of them now than in 1990, even when you adjust for population growth. Why? Because while the tasks changed, the economic value of the role didn't. Back then, the core economic value of an accountant was to help businesses make sound financial decisions and stay compliant with tax laws. That hasn't changed. What has changed is how they do it. Instead of spending days doing manual calculations, they now use software to do that instantly, freeing up their time to analyze trends, offer strategic insights, and advise companies at a higher level. In fact, the economic output of a single accountant today is probably 10 times what it was 35 years ago. Back then, it might have taken a team of 3 people a week to process 5 years of ledger data and prepare graphs for a meeting. Today, a junior accountant could do that in under an hour. So you may be thinking, if one accountant can do the work of 5, doesn't that mean there are fewer jobs to go around? You'd think so, but that's not what happened. As the productivity of individual accountants increased, so did the economic output of the businesses that they worked in. That meant those businesses could grow, expand, and enter new markets. And with that expansion came more complexity, more financial systems, global operations, regulations, taxes, which meant more accountants. Not just more of the same either. New roles emerged. Specialists in global compliance, automation, software integration, forecasting, ESG reporting, jobs that literally didn't exist back in 1990. Now let's bring this back to what this means for you. If you're a bioinformatician or hoping to become one, what exactly is the core economic value that you bring to the table? It's not writing scripts, it's not wrangling CSV files or building pipelines, it's turning data into insight. Insight that informs experiments, drives discovery, and improves lives. That hasn't changed. What is changing is how efficiently you can deliver that value. With AI, your productivity is increased dramatically. A single programmer or scientist leveraging AI effectively can now accomplish in a day what might have taken a week just 5 years ago. So will there be fewer jobs? Perhaps in the short term things will be shaky, but history shows that economic expansion follows productivity gains. As each scientist or bioinformatician becomes more productive, the institutions they work in can tackle bigger problems, run more experiments, publish faster, and develop more complex tools. This leads to growth, and with growth comes more jobs, not less, and jobs that are more ambitious, creative, and cross-disciplinary. Just as data science gave rise to specialist roles like machine learning engineer or DevOps specialist, AI in biological sciences will give rise to entirely new career paths. You may see roles like AI validation scientist, AI ops specialist, or any of these others. And that's just the beginning. AI will give rise to entirely new fields of research and spark groundbreaking scientific discoveries, many of which are inconceivable at this present moment. Now you might be thinking, but didn't you say earlier that farming jobs decreased after technological innovation? Why would science be different? And that's a great question. History shows us that technological revolutions don't just eliminate jobs, they shift and reshape them, often transforming the skills required and creating new opportunities. In agriculture, agriculture, the technological revolution ultimately reduced farming jobs because the industry faced inherent physical limits, so finite land available for cultivation and a natural ceiling on human food consumption. Once farming achieved high efficiency through mechanization and improved techniques, the demand for agricultural labor naturally decreased. The job market couldn't expand beyond these physical boundaries. There was simply less human work needed to meet society's food requirements. But this shift also created demand for new kinds of work: machine operators, mechanics, and specialists in logistics and food processing. The total number of people working the land decreased, but many transitioned into new roles supporting a more productive and complex agricultural system. At the same time, the increased efficiency in farming freed up millions to pursue work in entirely new industries, like manufacturing and services that emerged as society changes. Science and knowledge work, on the other hand, operate under different rules. Here the constraints are not physical, but conceptual. There's no fixed limit to how much knowledge we can generate or how many problems we can solve. Each breakthrough opens up new questions and opportunities, creating a cycle of continual expansion. When technology removes bottlenecks, whether it's spreadsheets for accountants or AI for scientists, it doesn't make the work obsolete. It instead allows people to tackle more ambitious challenges, analyze more complex data, and push the boundaries of what's possible. This leads to the creation of new roles, new fields, and new industries, just as we saw with the explosion of digital careers in the internet revolution. So while some routine or repetitive tasks in science and bioinformatics may be automated by AI, history suggests that the overall effect will be a shift. Some roles will diminish, but many new ones will emerge. The field will expand into areas that we can't yet imagine, and the core value of turning data into insight, discovery, and impact will remain at the heart of what scientists and bioinformaticians do. This is why, unlike farming, where physical limits eventually capped job growth, science and bioinformatics have the potential to keep expanding as long as curiosity and discovery drives us forward. AI is not the end of scientific work, it's the beginning of a new era with new opportunities for those ready to adapt and lead the way. Now, despite this optimistic outlook, right now you'll encounter plenty of pessimism online about AI's impact on jobs. But zooming out, we're witnessing the beginning of a transformation, not an ending. If you're willing to adapt and focus on delivering economic value rather than clinging to specific cog in the wheel type tasks, this is genuinely one of the most exciting times to be in science. Who knows what breakthroughs in science, health, and technology are just around the corner. And to revisit our example from earlier, if you could go back and give that 1990s accountant some advice, what would you say? Probably something like, don't panic. Yes, the tools are changing and your day-to-day tasks will evolve, but the purpose of your job, the economic value you bring, is still needed. Learn the new tools, lean into what they unlock, and your opportunities will grow. And here's the punchline. That's the exact same advice that you need to hear today. Now, maybe you're watching this and you aren't a bioinformatician or in a technical role, but the same principles apply. In fact, I put together this prompt if you'd like to walk through it yourself. So I'd encourage everyone to try, get out a journal or open a document and answer these questions. What is the primary economic output or value of my role? Which parts of my day-to-day work require uniquely human capabilities? Which parts of my work are routine or rely on skills that AI is rapidly mastering? What would my role look like if AI automated the routine and generative tasks? And what skills would I need to develop to thrive in that version of my job? And I've actually filled out an example here for a wet lab biologist, so feel free to pause the video here and look through this if it's relevant for you. But I guess the main point I'm trying to get across in this video is that you need to try and think in terms of economic value, not daily tasks. So usually when we think about our careers, we often define ourselves by our daily to-dos, what we physically do each day. But this is a trap, especially in times of technological change. The 1990 accountant may have spent 95% of their time manually crunching numbers. For the modern accountant, it's probably closer to 0%. If that 1990s accountant had defined their value by being good at manual calculations, they might have feared that software was taking over their profession. But those who understood that their true value was providing financial insight and strategy could adapt and thrive. The same transition is happening now for lab technicians, programmers, and scientists. The tasks will change dramatically, but the underlying value these roles create remains essential. The modern lab technician may spend 90% of their time running experiments, but decades from now, this may be closer to 0%. Same for programmers, going from writing 100% of the code manually, transitioning to AI writing more and more of it. This isn't about jobs disappearing, it's about roles evolving. Those making sweeping declarations like lab technicians are toast or software developers are obsolete fundamentally misunderstand this key difference between daily tasks and broader economic value. So once more for the people in the back, the core economic value of your work isn't going anywhere. The tools are just getting better, freeing you up to tackle higher leverage problems, but still advancing the same fundamental goal. Okay, let's finish with some practical advice. What should you be focusing on? Well, it's simple. Evolve with the tools. If you can grow alongside AI, you won't just survive, you'll thrive, much like the accountants who embrace spreadsheets. If you're wondering how you currently stack up, take the AI Readiness Quiz. It's just 10 questions. You'll get a score out of 100 to see how up to speed you are with AI, along with practical advice tailored to your background and goals. The link's in the card and also the bio. But in the meantime, here's a high-level roadmap depending on your skill set. So here's some general advice for everyone. Whether you're a student, researcher, or just curious, here's where I'd start. First, embrace change. Try new tools. Accept that you might waste time on a few. That's part of the game. Second, get good at communicating with AI. Better prompts equals better results. Third, you want to learn to effectively validate and verify AI generated results. And then finally, use AI tools for writing and learning to save time, enabling you to focus on strategic, high impact work. Now, more specifically for scientists, develop domain specific AI literacy. You don't need to be a machine learning expert, just know what's possible and what isn't, and stay informed about developments. Next, redesign your workflow. Leverage AI for what it's best at, tasks like data processing or text generation, and focus on areas requiring human insight. And then finally, hone your problem solving skills. So asking the right questions is increasingly valuable in the AI enhanced world. So learn to frame precise, impactful scientific questions for AI driven research. And now for programmers specifically, firstly, stay current with AI. So from coding tools and models to the new research coming out. Secondly, again, design your workflow to leverage AI for coding and debugging. So develop your own system to develop robust software efficiently with AI assistance. Ensure AI generated code is validated through practices like unit testing, and stay mindful of secure usage when handling proprietary data or repositories. And then finally, this one's especially important if you really want to stay ahead of the game. That's to go deeper. Develop expertise in AI systems themselves. So that means learning to create, fine-tune, and deploy AI models yourself rather than just using them. So, general summary. What's the big takeaway here? It's not about competing with AI, it's about collaborating with it, using it safely, effectively, and creatively. If you're a student, researcher, or someone charting their career path, lean into curiosity, try new tools, build something cool with AI. Even if it doesn't work, you will learn faster than you expect, and that learning compounds. And if you're looking to build your technical skills, I've got a new Python for Bioinformatics course that will teach you Python basics, as well as how to work with AI-assisted development tools, so you can become a skilled programmer in a fraction of the usual time. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to check it out. But above all, don't sit still. The only guaranteed way to fall behind is resisting change. 30 years ago, the internet seemed like just another trend. Early adopters ended up building our digital future. AI represents a similar inflection point. Engage now and you'll be positioned to shape what comes next. So, are we doomed? No, we're just getting started. Science fundamentally serves humanity, and AI enables us to progress faster and further than ever before. My advice? Pursue science from genuine curiosity. Play the long game. Don't chase supposedly AI-proof careers. Instead, focus on a mission that truly excites you. Maybe it's fighting a particular disease, building digital twins, or something totally different. You don't need your life's mission nailed down right now. Most people figure it out through action, not before it. I'm still discovering mine, but it's becoming clearer as I try new things and gain perspective. This is a natural part of the journey. The key is to move in a general direction that interests you and then course correct as you go. You don't need all the answers right now, just don't be stagnant. And with that, we wrap up our 3-part series on AI in bioinformatics and genomics research. So quick recap. In part 1, we explored AI's current impact from protein structure prediction to drug design, while also identifying 2 bottlenecks in data bias and computational costs. In part 2, we envisioned the future. So self-improving research systems combining automated labs with AI agents, digital twins predicting health outcomes, and living knowledge networks updating in real time. And then today in part 3, we zoomed out. We looked at the big picture. How has this kind of shift happened before, and how the key to thriving isn't clinging on to your current tasks, but evolving your value, because history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Okay, to round off, I should remind you that I'm just a guy on the internet throwing ideas at a camera. I don't have all the answers, so if you have a different perspective, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. Also, let me know about any cool AI projects that you're working on, or something that you've seen that you think is worth sharing. That's all for today. Thanks for sticking around. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.